go.
Caution. Nothing personal word of the day. It is April 19th. Today is Wednesday, 2023. Caution. You're running a baseball team. Let me set this up for you. You got a bunch of young players. You have fans. You have media. Everybody telling you, sign these guys. Show some commitment to your market. Show some commitment to your team. Be the Braves. Get all the young players and sign them right now. I was sitting in a office at Marlins Park, or Pro Player, don't remember which, doesn't matter. And word came across, and the way we got news of signings before social media is there was a printout, a computer that had all new contracts signed by any team. And we had a baseball assistant whose job it was to print out all of the newly approved contracts and then give it to the AGM, the GM, and to me. So every day comes by and drops off the piece of paper, and we see a contract, and we look at it, Evan Longoria, and we say, wow, that seems excessive. And that's Tampa, who was starting the process, or the new game of finding a young player, believing in that young player, and signing that young player. Since that, and there may have been players before then, but it doesn't matter. But since that, there have been a ton of young players signed, and we laud it. They do breaking news, and it's very exciting. Look at how great the Seattle Mariners ownership is. They found Julio Rodriguez, and they signed him. Tampa Bay looked at Wander Franco and said, we have our eyes on you. Here's $200 million. Acuña. Wow. I can't believe the Braves got Acuña for so little money. For what won't be the final time, you have every player signed when you start to a 6-year contract. I don't understand why people don't get that. It's really a simple concept. A player in Major League Baseball cannot be a free agent until that player has accrued 6 years of service time. The only difference when you sign a player young is that you lock in a salary each year. If you don't lock in a salary, you still have the player signed, but the player only gets paid according to what the player's done. If you do have a player locked in with an amount, then that player gets that amount no matter what the player does. So the rule used to be that we will talk about signing a young player if there are discounts, because there should be. A player is getting guaranteed money in advance for performance that hasn't happened yet and may not happen. And if you go through arbitration, arbitration is based on your career, but also what you did the previous year, called the platform year. And if you stink or you're hurt, then you don't get a significant raise. And then the next year, if you are healthy and good, you get a raise based on your previous year's deal, not based on anything else. So you'll argue in a second year of arbitration, hey, the player got $3 million last year. This player deserves a $1.4 million raise. Therefore, he should get $4.4 million. But a guaranteed contract means no arbitration, no looking at stats, no caring about anything. Here's your money every 2 weeks from April to September. Have fun. Caution. Sometimes you sign players and they suck. Sometimes you sign players and they need Tommy John surgery. If I read one more person tell me that Jeffrey Springs is a great contract signed by the Tampa Bay Rays, I'm going to look at you and say, do the math for me. That's all I'm asking. Jeffrey Springs got $31 million from the Tampa Bay Rays. He is not young. He had a couple good years. That's why they signed him. He's under control, but they wanted to get him locked up and include some free agent years. Then they put him on the IL with what they called neuroses. I thought neuroses is when you have problems in your head. like, I've got a lot of neuroses and quirks, but somehow that's an injury. That was not an injury when I was around. They called it ulnar neuroses. I call that a forearm flexor strain. I call that Tommy John. I told you that what we do is we announce something that's not Tommy John because we don't know whether it's going to be Tommy John. Wink, wink. Of course we know it's going to be Tommy John, but we want to say, hey, he's got some forearm stiffness. Hey, he's got some implications in his ligament area. GMAB. He's getting Tommy John. So Jeffrey Springs, Tommy John. Why are teams continuing to not exercise caution? Here's the argument that is made to me by all of you and by some people in front offices. I am willing to pay a man to not play or to play badly in order for me to also sign a player who does play well, does stay healthy, and therefore becomes a bargain. It's like spreading your risk, and it's guaranteeing your budget, guaranteeing what your payroll is going to be. I'm in, but I'm only in when you get the discount. Just think about what I'm saying. If all of these long-term deals that are signed by young players do not include sufficient discounts, what is the purpose of signing them? Because they're going to earn that amount of money if they're good and you pay it. And if they're not good or they're injured, then you don't. The argument that you make back to me, but Jeffrey Springs is a free agent, is at such a lower number. No, it's not. It's not as though you know just because he's good that he's going to be good throughout arbitration and into free agency. Look at Hunter Greene. The Cincinnati Reds signed Hunter Greene. They drafted him at the top of the draft. They gave him $53 million yesterday, and everyone is saying now they're back in it once Votto's off the payroll. That made me laugh. Coca, did you see, I can't remember who said it, but somebody who specializes in the Cincinnati Reds were talking about the fact that Cincinnati has no long-term money going forward, so therefore bringing and signing Hunter Greene is brilliant because their only responsibility is the buyout of Mike Moustakas. Mike Moustakas, the same guy who was signed to a free agent deal along with Nick Castellanos that were absolute busts. And when Joey Votto got signed to his extension, everyone was applauding. They were in the playoffs. They had a chance. They were good. Now Votto is described in articles as, let's just wait. He's almost off the payroll. Every time that you say about your team, I can't wait for him to be off the payroll, I want you to do a shot. Because you say it every time, and it's the same person who you say when they signed, wow, way to go. That's commitment by ownership. And then it crushes you for a number of years, basically eliminates all of your flexibility, and then you're rebuilding, retooling, and not winning. So Hunter Greene gets this deal, and they call it 6-year deal. There's a 7th-year option. I can't. Show some caution. What about the Minnesota Twins? They're pretty good. Coco, what do you tell me about Votto? Oh, you like the fact that Votto was signed? Okay, that's pretty good. Thank you. You also want to talk about, I get what you're saying. Chris Bryant. Well, I don't even want to talk about Chris Bryant. That was a terrible free agent signing. They overpaid him. He's actually playing decently for the first 2 weeks. The Rockies are terrible. He's horrific. Okay. Reckless signing? Okay. I'll talk. We're live. Are you aware that we're live here? Nothing personal, 5 days a week, 8 a.m. How many more segments do we need to do about reckless signings? Caution. The Minnesota Twins traded for someone. Do you remember when the Detroit Tigers traded for Dontrelle Willis and immediately signed him to a contract and ended up him not being able to perform for the Tigers? He wasn't good anymore, and they signed him without knowing him. The Minnesota Twins yesterday signed Pablo Lopez to $73 million over 4, taking care of his last year of arbitration, 3 years of free agency. What? I love Pablo Lopez. Don't get me wrong. In the clubhouse, on the field, He's got a plus changeup. He's got a plus fastball. Well, an average fastball. He's a plus pitcher. He has started off strongly for the Minnesota Twins. I get it. What is the reason you're giving him that money now? We used to have a rule. Don't sign contracts during the regular season. 1, we don't want players to be distracted. 2, we don't want to be swayed by the recency bias of current performance. All these players get signed at the top, and then all of a sudden everyone's shocked when you're trying to get rid of the players or designate the players or find a way to not have to pay the players. You're not supposed to distract players during the season. Pablo Lopez has a couple good starts. He's doing great. They go to him and they say, listen, we don't want to worry about arbitration as a 6th year, final year of arbitration. We want to keep you here. We want to make sure that we've got some sort of rotation because we have 3 guys who are aging out. Their contracts are up and they're going to be gone. We traded away Berrios, brilliant move. The Toronto Blue Jays signed him without living with him and knowing him, and now they rue the day that they did because it felt good to sign him because of the excitement of the day. How do we get people to ignore the excitement of the day? Your GMs and your team presidents and your owners love the EOD. The thing about excitement of the day is I've felt it, and it feels so good. And then it disappears, and you're looking for the next bit of excitement. How many of us in our lives are always looking at the next thing? Wow, that was amazing. I want to feel that again. I'm going to go after that feeling. Sounds like drugs, doesn't it? I want to be that happy. I want to read those great articles about myself and all the great tweets and have the phones ringing in the sales office. This is so exciting. One of the reasons why my 30-minute rule is so good, no signing players, releasing players, doing anything 30 minutes after a game. Don't do anything with emotion. Why are you caught up in your evaluation of Pablo Lopez? Because you watched him on the Marlins? Because you watched him start 4 games for you? I don't understand the reason. There's always a time to pay players for performance. When you pay players at the high, by definition, you're overpaying. Let me give you an example. The Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles, owned by Mr. Moreno, Artie. He of the we can't win, even though we beat the Yankees yesterday. Ohtani, who is, again, if Ohtani's not MVP, I'm calling it now. If he stays healthy, he's the MVP. Forget Judge, forget anybody else. He is, again, one of the best pitchers in baseball, a number 1 starter, and one of the best hitters in baseball. If that's not enough to win MVP, to me, how about MVP and Cy Young? Coco, we didn't prepare for this. Was Dennis Eckersley MVP and Cy Young one year? I'm trying to remember. There is one person who got both, and I'm not remembering who it was, or maybe it's 2, or maybe it's none. As a matter of fact, forget the whole thing. Ready? Psht. 9, 6, 48. Ohtani should win Cy Young and MVP if he keeps going. So these Angels who have a hard time, it's all those people? I do not believe that Johan Santana was ever the AL or NL MVP. You're telling me that Koufax, Gibson, Steve Carlton, Denny McLain, Pedro Martinez, Johan Santana, Tim Lincecum, and Clayton Kershaw all won the Cy Young and the MVP in the same year? That would blow my mind if that's correct. I don't remember Tim Lincecum ever being National League MVP, even though he was so good in 10, 12, and 14. Anyway, I digress. Maybe it wasn't even 10, 12. I think it was. He was there for all the Giants World Series. Let me go back to the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles. David Fletcher, great young player. They signed him to a young deal. Guess where he is now? Released. And the Angels have to pay him $21 million. $21 million. Are you okay with that? Do you like when your owner does that? It feels good when you sign him. They're investing in our future. They're keeping this group together. You think that every long-term deal signed by the Braves is going to work? Of course not. Caution. Stop with these deals. The reason why there's a caution sign is you're meant to slow down, look around, and be aware of things that otherwise you may not be paying attention to. When there's a caution bears in the area sign, you're thinking to yourself, oh, crikeys, I better look out for some bears. When you don't see the sign, you say to yourself, all right, I'm going to keep going and maybe eat some chocolate. All right. Wait to see when we tell you something's going to happen. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Yesterday, we had an entire conversation about Draymond Green. I don't take victory laps often because when you do a show every day, you're going to be right a lot, you're going to be wrong a lot, and I am going to own up. And I don't want to be the one like the ones who pick games and they only tweet it or only talk about it when they have a good night, but they don't talk about what happens when they lose the games they pick. It's common, right? That's normal. People want to forget the bad and just accentuate the good. I mean, there's an entire medicine called plastic surgery about that. We're going to ignore the fact that it's bad, and we're going to make something look good so people focus on that. Great. I'm in. As I show you all of my forehead wrinkles with the ring light in my forehead. I got to find a way to not have the ring light in the forehead. There's got to be a way to do that. You can put on makeup. Maybe I should do that. All right, I'm going to look into that. What were we just talking about? Draymond Green, victory laps. Go listen to yesterday's show, which is show 797 on April 18th of 23. And I did a segment of why Draymond Green is going to be suspended. I then spent the entire day having people contact me saying that is the worst take ever. He's not going to be suspended. There were tweets going out there from insiders saying we have it on information and belief. Sources say he's not going to be suspended. And I said to myself, I still don't buy it. And the reason I don't buy it is that you've got to suspend him because of the behavior, not just the stomping, but what he did to the fans. So Draymond Green was suspended, and the NBA did something that drives me up a wall. They announced it like at 11:30 at night. It took you that long to write up a press release and to decide, were you looking at different angles of the video? Were you trying to speak to witnesses? What exactly was your plan? So Joe Dumars, the great shooting guard for the championship Detroit Pistons, who now is the EVP and head of basketball operations, in announcing the suspension very late at night, although they'll argue just because it was 11:30 on the East Coast, it's only 8:30 on the West Coast. Give me a break. 9 to 5. You can do it. They said, this is the NBA, not Adam Silver. They had Joe Dumars announce it. The suspension was based in part on Green's history of unsportsmanlike acts. God dang it. You got it wrong, Adam. Have you ever heard of something called double jeopardy? You think that you should be making decisions on a player based on that player's history? I know. If that player's ever done drugs and you are testing that player, don't bother testing. The player's going to test positive, I'm sure, because the player's still doing drugs. And I would like you, for anybody who shoots 50% from the three-point line, or let's do a better one, 80% from the free throw line, don't make them shoot the free throws. Just give them 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 are made, 2 out of 10 are missed, and the team gets to decide which gets made and which gets missed. But 8 you get credit for, 8 points, 2 you don't. You don't suspend someone in part because of the history. You take the act as it is, and then you make a decision. Is it suspension worthy? Elaine, yes. This act alone was suspension worthy, period. What he did after being ejected is suspension worthy, period. I'm not going to sit around comparing this guy to the men before, deciding whether or not there should be a suspension and whether or not it's worthy for that suspension to be granted. I don't understand why the NBA did it. So here's my release from the NBA. At 4 p.m. Eastern, Golden State Warriors forward Draymond Green has been suspended 1 game without pay for stepping on the chest of Sacramento Kings center Domantas Sabonis. In addition, the suspension is due to the behavior shown post-ejection, not leaving the court fast enough, and inciting fans. Joe Dumars announced the suspension and said, quote, "We are not going to allow this type of behavior, and we want all players to understand there will be immediate and significant consequences to both unsportsmanlike conduct and any involvement with fans that we feel could lead to any sort of escalation of violence." Draymond Green will serve the suspension April 20th when the Warriors host the Kings for Game 3 at the Chase Center. That's the announcement. Staggering to me how they did this. However, the wait to see that we did yesterday, guess what? It's a yes. Draymond Green is going to miss Game 3. The Golden State Warriors are down 0-2. That's a problem. Can the Golden State Warriors somehow win 4 out of 5 games against the Sacramento Kings? I have zero background or research for this statement. Did the Sacramento Kings lose 4 out of 5 games this season? And if so, how often? Will they lose it to the same team? No. The Golden State Warriors, the reigning NBA champions, they will not beat the Sacramento Kings, and the Kings are going to the second round, which means we're getting way more beams. All right, after the break, I'm going to have a correction because I gave you a list of people with Cy Young and MVP that was in my ear, but I take the blame. I get a lot of things in my ear, and when I'm wrong, and I'm saying I was wrong by saying that. I do not believe that the players I listed won MVP and Cy Young, and I'm going to correct it after the break, and we're going to go through all sorts of amazing rule changes that could be coming to a ballpark near you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Samson. Matthew Koch and I come to you every day, 8 a.m. live on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. In addition, we're a podcast, so please listen wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends about what we're doing here because we're not the best kept secret anymore, that's for sure. But that said, we got to keep growing. Okay. MVP Cy Young, I think Shohei Ohtani should get there. And it would be rare. Okay? Coca, listen. I'm not going to take a break. The internet's working. Yesterday was an absolute nightmare in that regard. But I do not believe that in the same season, Roger Clemens was MVP and Cy Young. I'm talking about the same season. Okay? Thank you. Let me know. All right. Let's talk about what MLB is doing right now. I'm loving it. I mean, this is like quarter pounder with cheese scenario. This is in the styrofoam case scenario where you open up the styrofoam, you eat the quarter pounder with cheese, and the first bite is so good. Not my favorite bite. What is your favorite bite of a McDonald's quarter pounder? For me, let me tell you how I did it. Let me see if I can make my handkerchief into a circle. If you're watching this on YouTube, here's what I would do. So it's a circle. I would go left for a bite, right for a bite, and I would enjoy it. Then a smaller left and a smaller right, thereby leaving a middle that's sticking out. And the middle burger bite is like heaven, and it's bite number 5. It's left, right, middle. And that middle bite, second only. No, that's first. The second favorite is when you think you may only have 1 bite left at the end, but you decide in your brain you're going to make it 2 bites. And so that second to last bite, you're like, that's an extra. Those used to be my favorites. Rule changes. What am I talking about McDonald's for? I swear to you right now, as I sit here, I have no idea why McDonald's and their old styrofoam cases for their burgers was in my head. None. And the good news is there's total silence in my ear, which means Coca doesn't either, which means you don't either, which means I'm going to keep going. MLB, I love oh, I'm loving it. I got it. God, my brain is funny. I am loving the rule changes. I'm loving the fact that we're 2 weeks in, or we're almost 3 weeks in tomorrow, actually. Opening day was 3 weeks ago tomorrow. And the games are just ending early. They're starting a bit earlier, but they're ending early. They're 2.5 hours. I'm good. You know, the increased stolen bases, is it going to last? Is it not going to last? There's way more home runs. People are still striking out. They're still walking. I'm not seeing as much station to station, as many sort of gap hits as I would like, but it's going to take time. But MLB has finally got the guts to do rule changes and to not worry about what the union is saying. They made this competition committee that has players on it that have no say in anything. There are rules about how they can institute new rules. And in addition to what you've seen this year, they announced yesterday that in the Atlantic League, which is the equivalent, I guess, if you're going to talk about what that is, it's the petri dish of leagues. Meaning, in that league, you know, when you get like a COVID test or you get a biopsy and they have to grow stuff to see what happens? The Atlantic League is where you grow stuff, and then you look at it under the microscope and say, ooh, you're sort of sick, or hey, you're good. The Atlantic League is used to test new rules. So yesterday, we got a couple, and I want to tell you what they are and tell you my view. Number one, a designated pinch runner. Hell yeah. Here's how it works. Anybody on your roster of the 26 men, minus the 9 who are starting. So you've got 17 players eligible to be named the designated pinch runner. Now, you know when you make your playoff roster, you've got the Billy Hamiltons of the world. I was about to say Lewis Hamilton. You've got the guys who are fast, the Peter Bergerons. We had a guy named Eric Reed. I'm pulling these names out. You don't know who they are. You don't need to know. Guys who are super fast, and they go into pinch run when you're down a run and there's a guy on first. They need to steal second, maybe steal third, and get home in a sacrifice fly to the extent that anyone does that anymore. Or steal second and score in a single, or be able to score from first on a double. Pinch runners. Now, you get to designate a pinch runner, and at any time during the game, that pinch runner can go in for the player who got on base, and once the inning's over, once the runner's out or scores, that pinch runner's back out of the game, and the person who got pinch run for is back in the game. And it used to be the rule is when you're out of the game, you're out of the game. You can't come back in the game. If you're going to pinch run for somebody, see you later. That guy who can't hit but can only run is going to have to hit if you go all the way through the order, or you're going to have to pinch hit for the pinch runner, thereby depleting your bench, therefore making a problem for your team. Hell yeah. Why not? I don't want to worry about hamstrings. Now, Stanton hurt his hamstring legging out a double, so that happens. But I don't want to worry about a pitcher running on the base pass. I don't want to worry about players who tend to get hurt more than they don't. If they get on base, I'm going to use the pinch runner and not take that bat out of the lineup. Jason Stark wrote about this and told me that the designated pinch runner rule, if the same designated pinch runner goes in for a second time in the game, then he's got to stay in the game. I don't like that. There should be a designated pinch runner anytime you want. You want to use him 9 times? Use him 9 times. You want to use him 5 times? Use him 5 times. What's wrong with having speed on the base pass? Who wants to see Vogelback going from first to third? I don't. Do you? So I am all in. The Atlantic League is going to do it, and that rule is going to make it to Major League Baseball. Second, we sat around for so long talking about pickoffs, the number of times you can throw to first. What would happen if you only allow 2 throws to first? Once you throw over once, the runner knows you're not going to throw over a second time because then you can't throw over ever again. And if you throw over twice and you can't throw over again, then the runner can just go. Do we have any video? I don't know why we would, because I didn't mention this because I didn't think of it till just now. God, I love doing this show. Yesterday, Corbin Burns, or the day before, whenever he pitched, he did something really cool with the pitch clock. He let the pitch clock run down close to 0. There were 2 outs. It was a 3-2 count, and the runners were on the move. He stepped off and picked off the runners. Inning over. Outstanding. Great gamesmanship. Max Scherzer's jealous. I like it. The reason why we agreed, and I agree that 2 disengagements is the right number, is that if you move it to 3, way too many, and if you move it to 1, way too few, because what it means is that I don't even want my pitcher throwing over 1 time, because after that, you better pick them off or it's a balk and they get the base. But they're going to try to only do 1 disengagement. My view of that will not fly. That gives too big an advantage to the runners, and I get what we're trying to do. We're trying to have offense. We're trying to have people running. We're trying to have excitement. But really, I can spin this to say game times are now 2:38. We've shaved 31 minutes off the game. We can claim that it's more exciting. Let's relax on the advantage to the offense right now. The next rule that's going to go into effect April 28th is called the double hook. All right, here we go. MLB wants to, and I get this because owners want it. Here's what really pisses off an owner. Paying $15 million to a starting pitcher who's 5 and dive at best. 5 and dive used to be an insult. Quality start is what you wanted. 6 innings or more, 3 runs or fewer. I mean, that's like a dream. 5 and dive is what you said of your Drek. Let's pay nothing for a 5 and dive guy. Let's find a rubber arm, AAA guy, let him 5 and dive. Where after 5 innings, you take him out and you pray to God he's only given up 4 to 5 runs. What MLB is looking at with the double hook rule, and this involves when you lose your designated hitter, because there's now universal designated hitter, and you lose your designated hitter when you have your pitcher and your pitcher is removed from the game before 5 innings. They're going to call that a new rule, and I am OUTTT. The double hook rule started back in 2021, and that has to do with when you lose your designated hitter, and it has to do with when your pitcher's taken out of the game. Doesn't matter for purposes of this conversation. The real question is, and my real point is, do you tie it to the number of innings that a starting pitcher is in the game? This is sort of like Adam Silver believing that load management is going to be settled by making players go 65 games. Because if they don't go 65 games, then they can't possibly, under any scenario, win a postseason award. Okay. It's not going to do anything for load management. Players don't give one rat's ass if they don't win a postseason award. If they don't want to play 65 games, they're not going to play 65 games. Owners want pitchers to pitch deeper into games. It helps keep your bullpen healthier, and it helps with the amount of money you're spending on starting pitching if they're actually taking up innings, because you've got 162 times 9 innings to do, which is 1620 minus 162. Which is 1420 plus 38. 1458. Should we check that, Coca? Do we have time? I feel like we do. I mean, that's assuming you have to go 9 innings every time, but you're home a bit. But just 162 times 9 is 1458. Hell yeah. I guess you could take away 81 from that, which would be 1358 plus 19, which is 1377. 1377 as the possible number of innings if you have half your games where there's no bottom of the ninth. Whatever. You're trying to get innings from pitchers. Wait to see. I'm going to give it to you straight right now. That 5-inning rule, nope, not going to happen. No chance. Count it. Okay. What else are we doing? Oh, we got to review a movie, don't we? Have we taken the break yet, Coca? We're going to take a break. I don't know if we've taken a break yet. I cannot recall that, but we always do the movie after the break. So we did take a break. Okay, no more break. I still watch a movie every day. I'm never going to stop that. Jesse Eisenberg, the guy from The Social Network, the guy from Adventureland, that Jesse Eisenberg, the guy from that great series about with Claire Danes. He's the doctor. This cannot be happening to me. I'm begging you, Coca, to have this not happen to me. What is the series where Claire Danes was nominated for maybe a Golden Globe and Mr. Fleischman's in trouble? Yes! I like it when the synapses are firing. Jesse Eisenberg has a directorial debut that came out starring Julianne Moore. It's called When You Finish Saving the World. Well, Jesse, I love that you got Julianne Moore. It's an interesting topic. Julianne Moore plays a mother who is sort of cold. But on the other hand, she has a job which is requiring great empathy. She seems to take care of other people more than her own son. And if I'm not mistaken, the husband in this movie is the guy who played Rene Russo's husband in Mr. Destiny. Not Jim Belushi, because that was the alternate reality, but the husband in Mr. Destiny. Not sure if that's true, but if it is, that's funny. And the reason why you're not going to find out is that When You Finish Saving the World is an hour and a half that you don't need to spend. I watched it. I'm going to give Jesse Eisenberg every benefit of a doubt. I'm happy he's directing. Good for you. Julianne Moore. I can't even how much I love Julianne Moore. But the movie itself, it did not hit the mark. There were a few scenes that can maybe give you a tiny bit of emotion, but only a few, and only if you grew up in a state of dysfunction where you were ignored by your own parents. When you finish, J.O. Sanders was in Mr. Destiny. Hell yes. That is the craziest call. All right. Nothing personal pick of the day. How did we do yesterday? I feel like we did well. We told you to take the Phillies over the White Sox because we knew that it was smart to do. I think it was it Wheeler over Lynn? Well, the Phillies in game one of their doubleheader did win, so that's a win. Then let's talk about the Cavs-Knicks. I watched the NBA last night, and when you lose game one at home, there is a really good chance that you're going to win game two. And the reason is that even in an 8-1 scenario, well, that's for sure, but the 4-5 scenario of Cleveland, New York beat Cleveland in game one. Cleveland's going to come out hard because you're not going to lose and go down 2-0 heading on the road. It's over. You're done. If you lose 2 on the road to start a series, there's a small chance. If you lose 2-0 and your home games you've lost, you have no chance at all. So Cleveland viewed yesterday as a game 7. The Knicks viewed yesterday as a game 1. And the reason why they did is no matter how much you meet your team and you say, hey, we got one. All our goal was to get 1 out of the first 2 on the road. We got the first one. Let's get greedy. Let's get the second game. Let's focus on that. Here's the problem. You can give a Ted Lasso speech all you want to your players, but they know you know that they know, and everybody knows that their level of attention, their level of intensity is not what it would be had they lost game 1 on the road. So the Knicks came in without the intensity and without the ability to match the intensity of the Cavs. So the Cavs were only favored by 5, and they won by 70. Cavs over the Knicks was a win. We are over 500, 56 and 55. Finally. I have a wait to see, by the way, that by December 31st, I will be over 100 and up money. Now I'm over 100 in picks, still down money, but hang in there. Nothing personal pick of the day today. Minnesota Twins, the aforementioned Pablo Lopez. We've got him for $73.5 million. Minnesota Twins. We signed Carlos Correa. Hell yeah. Look at us. Go, go, go. They're playing the Red Sox, the last place Red Sox. I'm sorry, Will and Jenny. You know I am. I don't mean to go against the Red Sox. I don't mean to impugn the quality and skill of the Red Sox roster. But I would like to point out that, yes, they're in last place, and Corey Kluber stinks. Why is he still getting the ball every 5 days? Because he won the Cy Young? How many years do you... Now, listen. I'm always going to be a World Series winner. I'm always going to wear the ring, and you always get to say 2003 World Series champion. President of a World Series championship team. Corey Kluber always gets to say Cy Young Award winner. I get it. But you don't listen to nothing personal because I was part of a World Series winning team in 2003, do you? You listen because we have fun every day. Just because a pitcher won the Cy Young Award, we would do this a lot. We would say, hey, this guy in 2009 was so good. Let's bring him in 2013 and see if he can recapture his glory. Do a little Springsteen. Guess what? Doesn't happen. The Twins are only 130 over Kluber. We're taking him. All right, what about the NBA? Giannis is doubtful for the game against the Heat. Giannis with the back contusion. Giannis is going to play tonight. There's no reason not to, especially when you're trying to win the title and you lost game one at home the way the Bucks lost game one against the Heat. The line, however, used to be 8.5, and now it's 6 because Giannis is doubtful. Doubtful? I view that as probable. And even if Giannis doesn't play, the Bucks are a better team than the Heat, and they're only giving 6. We're taking the Bucks to even up that series big time, -6 over the Heat. Those are the 2 picks of the day. All right, I want to end the show with a couple of comments on a couple of things. 1, Damar Hamlin was cleared to play yesterday. Damar Hamlin, the player who had cardiac arrest on that Monday night game against the Bengals, the Buffalo Bills player, the player who died on the field, died in the ambulance, was resuscitated by the hero first responders, by the athletic trainers who knew what to do, who understood how to use a defib machine. He has been cleared to play. After what happened to Damar Hamlin happened, we talked about what we speculated, and people thought it was irresponsible. Don't speculate about other people's medical conditions. But my view of it was that there is, and doctors had said this, and I agreed, is that if you get a blow to your heart at an exact time in its beating cycle, it can stop. You start it again, and you're ready to roll. That's what happened to Hamlin. It is a miracle. It is unbelievably amazing. I'm so happy that he's back. Should he play again? Yes. The odds of being hit in a blow to that area at that exact time, they exist. They're not 0. But it's like a lottery winner winning the lottery again, or someone in a plane crash being in a second commercial plane crash. Does it happen? Yeah. Would you want to bet it? No. So Damar Hamlin has come all the way back, full contact, ready to go for spring training. There's voluntary workouts going on right now, or involuntary workouts. I keep forgetting, Coca. What are we in, the involuntary or the voluntary? We're in one of the workouts right now in the NFL. Voluntary, thank you. And I guess involuntary workouts would be called preseason. So voluntary workouts is when you're, hey, do you want to come? All right, sure. Just, I don't want to get hurt. So I want to just do a shout out to Damar Hamlin. We are rooting for you. Are you going to be thinking about it every play in the beginning? But hang in there. Eventually you won't. Second thing I want to bring up is something I saw. We do videos on TikTok, and we're involved. Coca does it. We have social media, David P. Samson on Instagram. I try to talk to as many of you as possible on Twitter at David P. Samson in the DMs. It's getting harder and harder. Please do not be offended if I do not respond to what you're saying. I'm trying to even read all of them, and I can't, but I'm trying. Keep sending them. TikTok has become this very controversial situation where kids are doing challenges, and the challenges are asinine and dangerous and sometimes fatal. There is something called a Benadryl TikTok challenge. It is where kids take 6 times the recommended dose of Benadryl just to see if you can start hallucinating. Well, a 13-year-old did it, and now he's dead. I agree you can die walking down the street. I can agree you can be in a garage that crashes on you. My thoughts are with those people in New York. I can agree that bad things happen to good people, bad things happen to bad people. Bad things just happen. I agree that sometimes we do things that we increase the odds of a bad thing happening. But these challenges to make you look cool on social media, it puts the ass in asinine. And as parents or as friends, do not encourage, but pay attention to the possibility. And if you have young kids and you're listening, or you are a young person who's listening, you're not cool for doing that stuff. It's not going to get you more friends. It's not going to get you girls. It's not going to get you guys. It's not going to get you likes, loves, follows. It only has a chance to get you dead. What's the use of that? A wasted life. Please pay attention. We'll be back tomorrow for another edition of Nothing Personal. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.